Hi everyone, it's James again for another Biome Bites episode. Today we're going to be speaking about health supplements, dietary supplements and supplementation strategies for people who just want to kind of get by and survive, but also people who want to thrive and survive and reach optimal performance and become the best person they can possibly be. And this was inspired by a really nice and interesting question that came from one of our listeners, who essentially said, James, why are you taking any supplements at all when, as you kind of claim to say, you eat a really amazing, varied, balanced, micronutrient dense, minimally processed diet? Do you need supplements if you're eating a nice, great diet? So that's a great question. And by definition, supplement is something that should supplement the diet. It is not a food substance. It's a product that's consumed orally that's intended to supplement something within the diet. Now, in an ideal world, supplements aren't required in order to be healthy and fit and well, because your diet contains all the micronutrients that you need, so your vitamins and minerals. It contains all the essential fats. It contains enough protein for you to get your essential amino acids, which are those that can't be produced by your body. And it allows you to recover properly, create new tissues, create new muscles. It helps basically rejuvenate and replenish your body and give you the energy you need to go through your day and perform and live as a human being. But there are some specific supplements that would typically be recommended to most people, even those that do have a balanced diet. And one nice example to start with would be vitamin D3. So this is a fat-soluble vitamin that can be found in food, such as egg yolk, and is produced by the body and the skin in response to sunlight and UV rays. As you will know, this podcast is based in Scotland, and in Scotland we are not blessed with long sunny days for most of the year. And in fact, the government guidelines say that between the months of October, some say September, and April, we are actually deficient in vitamin D if we don't supplement, because we don't get exposure to enough sunlight. Now, I'm just going to go on a little bit of a rant here for a second. A lot of sources say the sun is not strong enough. Okay, well, the sun actually is strong enough. The sun doesn't change in its strength as an entity. What changes are things like cloud cover, its latitude within the sky, and daylight. We have a shorter day because of how things are tilted in various different axes, and I'm not an expert on such things. But the sun is strong enough. It's just our ability to get enough sunlight or high enough concentrations of UV rays changes within the autumn winter months, because of essentially the sun's positioning relative to the earth, cloud cover in the winter months, and so on. So it is possible to get enough sunlight to produce vitamin D between the months of September and April. However, you'd have to spend time outside in the cold with relatively little clothing on. And unless you're an expert Wim Hof practitioner who likes to be outside in very little clothing in very cold temperatures on a regular basis, it makes sense to consume a vitamin D supplement. The government guidelines say something like 10 micrograms every day. I think that's a good place to start for most people. If you're an athlete, you might want to consume more. There may be specific health benefits associated with consuming more than 10 micrograms. And that's a common theme across many supplements. There may be certain health benefits in specific situations when you consume more than your recommended daily allowance, so the government guidelines for the minimum targets essentially to be able to function. And this brings me on to something called biohacking, which is essentially a term used to describe optimizing your health and your physiology to live longer, live happier, be free of disease, and maximize your performance in specific situations. And a key element of biohacking involves tweaking, adding different amounts, mixing different supplements to kind of hack your own biology, figure out what works best for you to become the best version of yourself. So for someone like me, who is eating fruit and veg many times per day, who does get above the fiber targets every day of the week, every day of the year, eats a lot of good fat, eats a lot of high quality protein, doesn't consume maximally processed, ultra processed foods, minimizes sugar content pretty much at all costs, I can still benefit from supplementation. And that's because when you supplement, you can increase the concentration of compounds, molecules, whatever it may be, to a level that you couldn't get typically through diet unless you had some crazy diet where you consumed huge amounts of some substances. I'll give you one example that relates back to the red wine episode which I just did, and it's an episode that everyone should listen to if you enjoy red wine. I talked about polyphenols. Now, polyphenols are part of the 3 Ps which we talk about for microbiome gut health: polyphenols, prebiotics, and probiotics. And red wine does contain polyphenols, many different types of polyphenols, and one of them is called resveratrol, also called trans-resveratrol. And that has been linked to, in a number of different studies, primarily those published by someone called David Sinclair at Stanford, hope I've got that right, University. Really sorry, I've forgotten if it's Stanford or Harvard. And essentially shows that resveratrol can extend lifespan longevity in mice and various different kind of rodent models. And you can achieve resveratrol consumption through red wine, but it's difficult to get the levels that are administered in these studies. In fact, you'd probably be quite drunk and you wouldn't be very healthy because you're consuming too much alcohol or the toxin. So to get more resveratrol, you could find other resveratrol containing foods, or you could just consume a supplement. So this is an example of when a supplement can be used to increase the concentration of something that has purported health benefits, but doesn't necessarily prevent a deficiency, because resveratrol is not essential. It just has health benefits because it's consumed and metabolized by the body, and as a result it benefits different parts of the body. So supplements can be beneficial for everybody, and when selecting a supplement regime, there's a few things, or when you're crafting a supplement regime, there's a few things to consider and a few things to think about. One of which is trying to consider what you may be deficient in. Now, the best way to do this would be to go and see a very interested, holistically minded healthcare practitioner and work with them to get some baseline work done on all your bloods and all your organ functions and your various different levels of micronutrients and so on within your body. And reviewing those results with a healthcare professional will allow you to get a view on what could be improved, what could be optimized, or frankly, what is deficient. Now, if you're really deficient in something essential, for example, vitamin C, then your body will start to exhibit signs and start to tell you. So in the case of vitamin C deficiency, you get scurvy, which is something we all know about and have all heard about. If you're deficient in iron, for long term, you get iron deficiency anemia, and you get really fatigued, and it's difficult to do any exercise and so on. So if the deficiency, which could be corrected by a supplement, becomes a disease, then we're treating the disease through whatever is required to treat the disease, and that's less about supplementation, that's more about treating. So supplementation is about optimizing, it's about correcting, it's about preventing something from deteriorating rather than treating a disease, because that's a different protocol. So working with a committed healthcare professional would be a great start. If not, you can do some work yourself. You can get your own blood work done through some of the online testing providers that exist. Or you could just read a little bit more about someone with your specific goals, what kind of things you should take. So you should ask yourself, why am I supplementing? Am I supplementing for athletic performance? Am I supplementing because I want to increase my lean muscle mass and I find it difficult to get enough protein through eating protein-rich foods? Therefore, I'm going to take a high-protein supplement. Do I want to just increase my general well-being? Do I want to improve my cognition in the context of caffeine? And if so, you might consider taking something like L-theanine, which stops the jitters and has been shown to be synergistic with caffeine in the context of concentration and various different outputs of cognitive performance. Do I want my skin to be better? Do I want my bowel movements to be more regular and more full? And I'm struggling to get enough fiber through whole foods, therefore I'm going to take a supplement. So asking yourself what you want to achieve through your supplementation is really, really important as well. Another piece of framework I like to use when constructing the supplementation regimen or the protocol or the stack is, what supplements do I want and what supplements do my microbiome need or want? So I think about myself, I think about the protein, I think about the micronutrients, I think about things like the fats that my cells need to thrive and survive. Then I think about the microbiome, my 3 Ps, prebiotics, probiotics, polyphenols. Am I getting enough probiotics in the form of food? Am I having enough fermented foods at the moment, or am I struggling to get them in because I'm traveling a lot, or I don't fancy what's around me in terms of readily available fermented foods and drinks like kombucha? Maybe it's worth me taking a specific drink or supplement to give me more probiotics. Am I getting enough fiber? Am I getting enough prebiotics? If not, I might consider taking a supplement. And am I getting enough polyphenols? Can you actually ever get enough polyphenols? It's difficult to get, the full spectrum of polyphenols because there's hundreds of them. And there's a couple of polyphenols in particular that have purported life-extending, health span extending, improving benefits. Just a quick point, health span and lifespan are two different concepts. Lifespan is how long you live for. You're born and you die. The delta between the two is your lifespan. Health span is a more nuanced concept and is more subjective. It relates to for how many years between being born and dying are you healthy. Now, of course, what does healthy mean? For many people, as you get later on in life, it means being independent. It means not being frail. It means maintaining your cognitive faculties. It means being able to play with the grandkids. It might be maintaining your work. It might be maintaining your sex life. And as you're earlier in your life, being healthy might be slightly different. It might relate to athletic performance. It might be able to work harder. It might be, able to stay up later with your kids rather than just being able to look after the grandkids, a couple of times a week or whatever. So you can construct your supplement regime around your goals, and that's key. The other thing as well, obviously, is cost and how complicated and how much time you want to spend on your supplement regime. Now, there's a spectrum here. There are reports of some people taking hundreds of different capsules every day, seriously, and probably spending thousands and thousands of pounds a month on supplements. Frankly, the core pillars of health and wellness, as we've discussed before in this podcast, are great diet and nutrition, adequate sleep, and exercise. These are the key things to longevity, and it's impossible for a supplement to do more than those things based on our current understanding of human physiology in the body. Maybe one day, but certainly not right now. So if those pillars are not in place, then really you shouldn't be thinking about a supplement unless you're starting to get negative effects from being deficient in something. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, what should you be looking for in terms of a supplement provider? This is really important. Now, there's so many different supplement providers on the internet. It's actually mind-blowing how kind of full and busy this market is. And there's a lot of marketing and there's a lot of money that can be spent on these things as well. So some of the key things are, is there third-party testing available for the supplement in terms of batch-to-batch testing? Do they operate or do they claim that their labs and manufacturing facilities operate to quality standards? One would be an ISO standard. Some say good manufacturing practice standards, although that's typically for medicine. But these things are important as well. Do you get a certificate of analysis? Or is there one available where the product has been tested by a third party or by the company and they tell you exactly what's in the product and how consistently they make that product? That's really important. Is the company transparent? Can you look up the management? Can you look up the directors easily? Or do they trade under a variety of different names and it's really impossible to find them? That's important too, because if management are easily accessible, then I think you've got a better chance of the company actually doing what they say they're doing rather than it being a kind of Amazon dropship or any other dropship type model where it's difficult to tell who's actually running the show. It's difficult to tell if these products have sufficient quality and if you're actually getting what you're buying in the correct dose. So, what about where to find good quality supplement information? My favorite website is examine.com, but essentially it's really high quality nutrition and supplement information where they do deep dives on all the supplements you can possibly imagine. There won't be every single one of them, but there's a lot of them. And they explain what the evidence is. They talk about different dosage regimens, what dose might be optimal for you. Are there interactions between other supplements? Are there any cautions? So examine.com is a beautiful and very, very strong website, which I've used for probably over 10 years now. I remember when it was first created, got really excited about it because I was doing physiology and sports science at the time. And it's just flourished and improved and increased since then. So I recommend that as a resource as you go through your supplement journey yourself. So to recap on what the initial question was, Should you? Can you? Why are you taking supplements when you're eating such a balanced and quote-unquote healthy diet? It's to do with thriving and optimizing and becoming the best possible version of yourself through a greater understanding of physiology and biology and readily accessible supplements which can give you things that food can't give you easily, and they're convenient and you can travel with them and so on. So I do believe that most, if not all, people should be taking some form of supplement if they're serious about their health. We talked about vitamin D on this episode, and I think that's a great place to start. And future episodes will give you other supplement recommendations depending on what your objectives are in life. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I hope that was interesting for you all. Please feel free to like and subscribe. It is the best way to support this podcast. It really makes a massive difference. The more 5-star reviews there are next to Inside Matters on Spotify, the higher it will get pushed up on the algorithm, the more high quality information we can get out there to people wanting to improve their gut health and their general health. As always, if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on social media or LinkedIn. I'm very happy to connect. Thank you everyone. Take care. Bye for now.